This is indeed your weekly dose of positive and uplifting news. I am Puleng Molebatsi, and yes, you guessed it right. This is indeed Stories Untold. Most of the conversations we've had on the show have been the toughest conversation, specifically on the topic of gender-based violence. So we decided to stop, take stock, and look back at the conversations we've had. And we've concluded that most of those conversations have been conversations that are led by victims of gender-based violence. Today we bring you the story of Charles Mpepu, founder of the No Excuse Initiative. He shares a bit of a background about his childhood and an experience he had as a young boy of gender-based violence and how that inspired this particular movement. Let's go straight into that story.
Charles Mpepu was awarded the Paul Harris Fellow Award, the same award that was previously won by the late President Nelson Mandela. Charles shares with us how it all began.
I grew up from a very disadvantaged family, where it was a big family with everyone staying there, my brothers, my sisters, and their wife on the same place. So I grew up watching, abuse for women and children happening in front of us. Mi angababa muthu bonoshuma mabrasini. Na petu novitu fiskwengani. Usumbori baba chivuanga macheluni ngapo 3. Bori nenda chishala na mkeguru, or mkeguru baba one mi amkara. Ndoba ndi close ngamanda na mkeguru. Usumbori mkeguru anytime bachi filori bako baisala rune mudzima ngavajia vava na kubhege, so vachiri jahe bhege ina chelede uibeyangi udofa mwananga kare ndarova. So vachiva right vadhurika ibuyela bhege yabuyelera kaningina vafa vaifara mukeguru vavo korea vachadhipfa zvavudi and madhuva avo vakopfa atsini anytime she can pass on, but she don't want to pass on without seeing his last born, because it's a last born. So she gave me money, and then I just and I go back. My brother was telling me that, Alex, there's the rats, there's the dirty place, the hostel is not good. But I say, no, I want to stay where my father is. I will live where my father is. If they didn't kill my father, they won't kill me. So it's where I decided to come and at the hostel and I was discouraging my father every day when he wake up and said, who are you working for? Because I'm a last born and now I'm working. Can you leave? Because Mama, he wanted you there. He started to be reluctant, but one day he just wake up and said, I'm going. He finally go back home. My father, bopesera bobiera bariunita na miabo na mianga.
He relates to us the story of his upbringing and the unfortunate events that led to the man we see today.
The abuse that I observe is that there were a lot of violence in terms of my brother fighting his wife, and we were watching, because when they fight to the point that they fight outside. When everyone watching, the children, my parents watching, everyone watching, it was a very terrible violence that we grew up watching on a daily basis. So that's why it affected me a lot, because growing in a violent family, watching how relationship done, it's like they normalize violence, because when after that violence, they're still going back and continue with that relationship. Makhiphe isibhamu asha iwarning alwa nomfazi. Just for a woman utamkhiphele isibhamu amenzele warning, umfazi uyabaleka aze ahukwe ngefence ayojampela ngale komakhelwane. So that's the worst that I seen when I grew up. I think it was the ill society, because it was a very real abuse to the point where Richie Uraraki Dibori If it's my brother who is fighting, I don't have a say as a young person. I can't even involve on that issues, but we just watch. There's no day when there's no fight. Where we were all the time, violence. There's going to be a noise next door. The reason to start the NPO, I was looking at the experience that I go through, and then the experience that children are go through, the experience that women are go through, the experience that also men are go through. Then I decided to stand up and try to help other people. So that's the reason I started the NPO. There's a need for men to come together and to talk about what are they going through their mind. Because to become violent, but you can become violent, but if you don't have somebody to talk to, you decided to commit suicide, because majority of people who are committing suicide are men. Majority of people who are on the street are men. Majority of people who are in jail are men. And I see that there's a problem with men that need to be taken advantage.
Welcome back. This is still Stories Untold. Thank you for being here. Today, we are tackling gender-based violence from the point of view of former perpetrators of gender-based violence. And our conversation is taking place right here in Alexandra at the hostels. As we journey in this particular conversation, we meet a man who shares how the No Excuse organization changed his life as a former perpetrator of gender-based violence. Our conversation doesn't end there. We later meet a woman who shares how her partner was able to benefit from being part of this particular movement. We go straight into the story.
There's no space where men who are hurt can go to. Maybe like abuse center for men and boys. There's not that space. We're growing up knowing that men don't cry, but we are not told that we need to come together and share. Men are meet at the soccer stadium, but they don't talk. They can share the beer, bottle of beer, they can group the whole night, but they can't talk what they're going through. That's why I decided to open a space for men to come together and share instead of judging.
Ngizela ofisini sohlangana namadoda ngokukhuluma mayelana nanokuthi mewu relationship kumele niphathane kanjani nanokukhulisana nje siyakhulisana la ngaphakathi nanokuthi mewu relationship kumele singahlukumezani singabaphathi kabi abantu besimame nezingane siphathe kahle.
Members of the Men's Forum are always excited to meet here every week, and their topics of discussions vary on a weekly basis.
If singamadoda asingabalekeli kude nabantwana ukuze abantwana bazokwazi ukukhula ngendlela eright, sibafundise ukuthi beqhubeke bephambili.
On Women's Month, we decided to make a men's walk where we target 1,000 men to walk. Everyone was wearing #No Excuse for abuse for women and children. We wanted to prove that men can stand up if they get a space to talk, a space to share. Because on that day, majority of men, more than 1,000 men, they take up the street. They started a 10-kilometer walk from Helen Joseph Hostel until 3 Square.
Some other things, reasons
Charles is passionate about the rehabilitation of gender-based violent perpetrators, and Tabiso is one of his success stories.
just like
Jose kisina like motswadi wa ka papa ka le mama ka ba le separated, mama ka le ko Limpopo, papa ka le ka mo ka gola ene under pressure ya gore ke batho go risa ke papa ke motho le gore ne ke rata tshemara ka pelo ka ofela until certain stage mo lo go high school. I've met young boys ba lo re ne le friends ka ra end up re tsuba di drugs ke tsuba nyao be ka end up ke tloela le school
Fela re flopile
Thabiso's use of drugs led him to become violent, especially towards women.
That anger ya gore ge ke sena tsona ne nka go shapa ka go tshwara po gore batho ba basadi ne for me it was an easy target ya gore ke ba tshware po ke ba shape le girlfriend ya ga phile ke mo shapile sena tšhelete ya go reka di-drugs ke ba le that anger ya gore ko e tshola kae ke a lwana ka mo ntlong ke ntlo kopana le Charles encouraged me I mentor I'm pusetsa go community gore community to mo trusta bankisa di rep go di session tse ke di kena le bona due to men's forum.
Since he started his journey in the men's forum, his view of women has since changed positively.
But since kopana le Charles and ruta hore motho wa mosadi o need respect. Motho wa mosadi go nna le motho wa mosadi ka muntu. First thing to you translate ke communication. Go nna le problem le motho wa mosadi, you sit down la bua ge e sa solve you go out mo ba lo gore ba na le experience ya go feta ya gago ba o thusa ka yona. For no motho wa mosadi for nna ke mona as a queen because na go ela next someone as a queen. No ke mona as a queen as a mother. For cause motho wa mosadi carried me for 9 months ke yana tsebang pain ya ngwana.
Not only does Charles' work attract males, we met with Untombi, who explained what brought her to #NoExcuseOffice.
uCharles ngimazi kakhulu ngokuthi noma unenkinga uyakhona ukusondela kuwena. Benginenkinga enkulu baba wengane zami. Ubehambe yophuza abe yangishaya. Ngagcina nami sengomunye nami oyinikela etshwaleni ukuthi mangidakwe. Ngithi mhlawumbe kuzoba ngcono. Angitshela ukuthi ngiyajola make ngaphuma nje angitshela ukuthi ngibuya kubantu besilisa ngishaye ngivaleka amehlo. Ngaze ngathatha isinqumo sokuthi ake ngisondele noCharles ngoba uCharles umuntu oningi onokuthi akukhanselise uma unenkinga. Ngaya kubhuti uCharles wangisiza wathi yazi maphekwe kuze kulunge. Ngicela ungixhumanise naye eze la kumina emlekuzeni ezweni abantu besilisa no-excuse. Ngathi sengiqalile ngawufuna usizo une-excuse kubhuti uCharles. Ngabuya ngamtshela wangithatha ngenye indlela wathi usuhambile wangela kubantu bakho emadodeni akho usubusa uzala kungani umfazi uyithathele inqumo ngami. Ngamphendula ngathi mina hayi baba wengane zami bengenza ethi la ekhaya la endlini kube nokuthula. Athi ngoba usuze wayake ngizoyake ngoba nje sengihlonipha uCharles. Wahamba ke wabuya nje entambama. Wathi yabo le ndawo ngifake kuyo inzima kakhulu. Uzozenzela noma yini ngendlela lapha nengeke office ongisekulona abangitshele ngakhona. Yebo khona kungena ukuthi usoyithatha noma yini makuthi iphuma uhambe ebafanele uzohamba emadodeni. Ngithi abazethembe mina ngisuka umuntu othanda abantu besilisa. Athi hayi ngosuku olandelayo wahamba wathi hayi mabe ngane zami ngisizile. Sengiyabona umehluko inhliziyo benginayo siqala ukwehla. Ngiyabona ukuthi bengithi uyazenza awuzenzi. Abamsize ngakakhulu ukuthi bemfundise umuntu wesifazane akashaywa ngoba ngase ngibona khona ukuthi vele uzogcina ngibulele ngendlela bengishaya ngakhona. Athi ngiyajola ngingajolanga. Nami ngabona impilo yami ishintsha ngoba nami ngase nginikele etshwaleni ngithe mhlawumbe kuzoba ngcono masidaba sobabili. Hayi manje sesijabene noma ngathiwa uthole ishumi sesidla sobabili. Utshwala noma ephuza usephuza njengabantu bonke akasaphuzi njengalokho ukuthi aphuze every day adakwe angishaye cha. Kushintshe kakhulu endlini yami. Kumnandi futhi kuyangithokozisa. Kumanje hayi sengiyabona kakhulu umehluko ngibonga kakhulu excuse empilweni yami.
Welcome back. This is our last and final segment of the show. There's still much to cover on the topic of gender-based violence. And one of the things that we're focusing on particularly in this segment is the importance of the information that trickles down to young boys as they are tomorrow's men. And that's one of the focus for the No Excuse initiative.
GBV iyona nto esihlumeza kakhulu eSouth Africa nokhulunywa ngayo every day kuma social network nakuma everywhere So sasa sikubona ukuthi no ngcono sibe nani neforum esoyakha ezosiza.
Dumisani joined hands with Charles in this forum, and he is very passionate about the boy child.
Ingane zabafana isikhathi esiningi zifuna lento engayibiza phecelezi father figure, because if ever there is no father figure kulo mntwana ayikho into akazoyenza right, ngoba uzokwazi ukuthi noma embona umuntu oyindoda noma ubaba angeke amthathe notice because akamazi ekhuleni kwakhe. I-guidance as a men's forum to the young ones eyokuthi kufanele nikhule nibe ngangathi nikwazi okuhle ukuhlukanisa okubi nokuhle.
So growing up, the crime that I witnessed, it was mixed a lot with gender-based violence. Back then, gender-based violence, seeing someone beating up a woman was something in a relationship, more co-relationship, it was something that was more welcomed. We had chicks, they would look for a guy, olo shapa, instead of anything, That's something I grew up witnessing a lot, people who are dating, if they didn't fight, for us, they were just that, insipid couple ele porang ele. Abale ba pora wa toto. The one ba tlapana ba kitimisana go strateng. Kinya go khula ke tshwanele abuti mang. That's how I grew up. Charles is someone I'm with on a daily basis. It's much more personal in a manner of saying, Charles, Chivunalaw, Mpepu, you might not notice the magnitude of change that you've brought into my life. You've been there for me, even at home. They know very well, all the time. Charles, you became more than a mentor to me, more than of a father to me, more than of a friend to me. I don't really think you do know how much value you hold in my life, how much value you bring into my life. The liberation that you bring into my mentality, your mentality currently, when I look at you and the things that you say, how you mentor me, it's something I would like to, it's something I would like for each and every young man and boys to have from their fathers. I would like to thank you from the day I was with you, I don't even want to mention years or whatsoever. I would like to humbly thank you from my heart. Immediately after I lost my grandma, that's when I met you, Charles Mpepu. Kyaleboga, go menagane.
Mangakhuluma ngoCharles. uCharles umuntu othanda kakhulu ukuthi izinto umphakathi ukhanyiseleke into kakhulu ongazazi. Njengokuhlunyezwa kweingane nje nokuhlunyezwa kwabantu besimame, izinto ezikhulunywa kakhulu ko radio noma ko TV ezingezi phakathi kwabantu. Kodwa yakhonta ilethe phakathi kwabantu. Lokho kwenza ukuthi abantu bayifunde izinto engafanele bazenze.
In the past, the headmen and leaders at Nobuhle Hostel used a different approach to solving gender-based violent cases.
Indembe sikhuza ngokuthi kuthethwe icala yabo. Kanti njengamanje sekuyakwazi ukuhlala phansi nomuntu aboniswe kufakwe lento eright emqondweni wakhe, kukhishwe lento wrong emqondweni wakhe. Yilokho manje ngathi kushintshile. Athi noma sithethe icala sokuhlawulisa egcineni. Mhlambe sikushaye. Okuyinto engeright ke emakho umuntu kwesinye isikhathi lonto. Kanti ukumbonisa ukukhipha into wrong emqondweni wakhe ufake right emqondweni wakhe. Lokho kwenza ukuthi naye akwazi ukubonisa ingane yakhe ekwazi ukubonisa umntana endlini. Yiloyo i-different engathi khona.
Ukungena kwami ku-Men's Forum kungisize kakhulu ngoba from indlela yesintu engikhuliswe ngayo kungenze ukufika kwi-Men's Forum ngazo understanda ubudoda nokuthi nje kuba indoda itself, what does it mean.
ga jana re tlo buisana le Men's Forum ke buile gore o teng Dr. Charles o teng Dr. Lebu ba buile gape re ba feleditse ngwaga wa go feta hela banna compliment gentlemen.
Charles' message goes beyond the hostels as he takes up his radio slot every Wednesday to educate and inform the Alex community at large.
So you need to think about your happiness.
Yeah.
Because if you kill, they're going to arrest you. And they're going to continue with their enjoyment. So the reaction that people can take is to think about their happiness first.
Like the rest of the country, the Men's Forum's message is loud and clear, and it is a song that they are willing to continue singing as they change one man at a time.
Umama bethu kumele sibahloniphe singalwe nabo singabathethise because mawumshaya ngesandla lo muntu akazilweli akanaphawu yokuthi akazilwela because wena uyindoda unepower yakho. Ngicela into ewanizwe lonke ukuthi nathi abobaba mawulo endlini yekela ukulwa phambi komntwana because lo mntwana uyagina ukuthi umfazi ukushayiwe.
Gents bafowethu ngicela niphathe kahle nithumele umlayezo right kubafana abancane ngendlela niphatha ngayo nistope indaba yokuhlukumeza abafazi nezingane. #NoExcuse.
In order to see tangible change in society, it's important that we all have uncomfortable conversations and that we are brave enough to engage all parties involved. Our work today with the No Excuse movement brings us to the conclusion of our show. From myself, Pulem Molebatsi, remember, it takes each one of us to play a role in being the change we want to see in the world. From myself and the team, goodbye.